What's going on, everybody? It's Professor Zeus, and I'm back with another video. If this is your first time at the channel, just know I greatly appreciate you. Why don't you go ahead and hit subscribe? We are on our way to 2,000 subscribers. Now, if you've been keeping an eye on the news, it looks like things are really heating up between Canada and U.S. over, tariffs, and there's a lot of big economic decisions going on. So today, we've got a major development. The Ontario Premier, Doug Ford, is reportedly flying to meet President Trump today to hash things out. And, what a lot of people are saying, what a lot of the headlines are saying is that, Canada might actually be backing off, its tough tariff stance on the U.S. But what's really going on here? Let's try to break it down with some history, some analysis. We'll watch a video that came out yesterday, and stick around. This is just more about this is more than taxes. It's about jobs. It's about the economy and two nations, trying to figure out how to conduct and coexist. So let's go ahead and watch some of this yesterday with MSNBC, I believe, and Doug Ford.
Me now is Doug Ford. He is the Premier of Ontario. Mr. Premier, we appreciate you again making time for us here on Meet the Press Now. Obviously, Vaughn just noted it, and we've been reporting in the last several minutes here that you announced that you're lifting that 25% surcharge on electricity exports after talking with the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. Take us inside that conversation, if you will, just a little bit. What assurances did you get from Washington before you made this decision to hold off on these surcharges?
Well, first of all, Aaron, thank you so much for having me on. I start every interview with saying how much we love Americans, and I know Americans love Canadians. We have to stop the bleeding. Secretary Lutnick reached out to me, put an olive branch out to sit down and have a discussion to move the USMCA deal forward and not wait till April the 2nd. We have to make sure we protect both countries. And as we're duking it out back and forth, China's laughing. They're building an arsenal of critical minerals, and we have to work together. We're the two greatest nations in the world. Let's build that AMCAN fortress. And as for the aluminum and steel, 16% of the aluminum that the U.S. makes is produced in the U.S. The rest, vast majority of it, comes from Quebec, Canada, along with steel. But let's work together. Cooler heads have to prevail here, or we'll decimate both economies. And we're seeing it over the last few days.
Understood. So in your conversation then, obviously you've agreed to not implement the surcharge. Did the Commerce Secretary offer you anything in exchange? Was there an understanding that the U.S. would be making a concession as well?
Well, they made the concession of dropping the additional 25%. They had it up to 50% on the steel and aluminum, and a meeting. We need to sit down at the table. We need to move forward this USMCA deal as soon as possible. Every single day that goes by, we see the market down over $4 trillion. Inflation's happening. Threats of assembly plants in the auto sector closing down on both sides of the border. Manufacturing, consumer confidence is down. We need to sit down, get this done. We're the largest customer for the U.S. We love the American people, and I do. I spent 20 years of my life there, and I just want to make a deal that's a fair deal for both countries. And let's unite and let's stick together.
So let's rewind for a bit. That was Doug Ford. For years, Canada and the U.S. they've had a pretty interesting trade relationship with the U.S., Mexico, Canada agreement, which is for high jobs, trade, different things like that. And I think that was back in 2020 when it first was enacted. But billions of dollars, flow across the border daily, from cars to aluminum to energy. But lately, that relationship is being tested. Literally, a week ago, Trump rolled out a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, including steel and aluminum, arguing that it's about protecting American workers and bringing manufacturing back home to the United States, right? Made in America. For fair point, or not, it definitely shook things up. Canada's economy, relies heavily on exports to the United States, which is about 75% of what we ship out goes south. So this wasn't just a slap on the wrist, it was a gut punch. Canada didn't really sit quietly. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he called it a very dumb thing to do, and his soon-to-be replacement, Mark Carney, who was a former governor to the Bank of Canada, I believe, and he's taken over as the Liberal leader. He talked a big game about standing firm, and then Doug Ford here, he was going crazy. He moved full throttle. On March 10th, he slapped a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the United States, which powers about 1.5 million American homes. So a lot of people don't know that a lot of our electricity does in fact come from Canada. And his message, Doug's message, was we won't roll over. And a lot of posts on Twitter from Ford's account show him doubling down, saying Ontario would fight Trump's tariffs and fight with everything we've got. But things started to get wild because Trump, he didn't budge, he didn't move. He threatened to double down these tariffs from 25% to 50% on Canadian metals, saying it's all part of his reciprocal trade strategy. If you're going to hit us, we're going to hit back harder. And for a minute, it looked like a full-on trade war. The market started tumbling. If you saw these last few days in the market, it's been crazy. Obviously, no financial advice, but when things are in the market are on sale, you should purchase. So, we started seeing markets tumbling, pensions, 401ks, investments, all feeling, the heat from all this talk of tariffs and things like that. Then, yesterday when this video came out, Ford and the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had a productive conversation, and suddenly, the tone shifted. Now Ford is on a plane to meet President Trump today. What really changed? Nobody knows. Reports are showing that Canada, specifically Ontario, might be looking to try to de-escalate the situation. Posts on Twitter and some news outlets hint that Ford's, backing off of this electricity surcharge and maybe even pushing for a truce for the tariffs. And he tweeted out, actually, he tweeted Mark Carney saying that, they're united against Trump's threats, but also they're extremely open to solutions. Is this a retreat, a rethink, or just, smart diplomacy? And we have to be fair here. On one hand, Ford, he's been kind of, really aggressive, standing up for Ontario workers, especially in the auto and manufacturing sectors, which could really get crushed by U.S. tariffs. And he does have a point. Canada can't just let its economy, take a beating. But critics might say, he's standing down too soon. Literally just days ago, he was all about fighting back, and now he's flying to our doorstep. Is this pragmatism? Is this smart? Or is Canada waving a white flag? Now, the Trump administration, they're saying, this is proof that hardball tactics actually work. You got to push hard, and then people are going to come to the table. That's the art of the deal, right? So this isn't really about pride or politics. If tariffs stick, the Canadian auto sector, like think Windsor, Ontario, they could lose jobs extremely fast. The US might see higher prices for everything from cars to aluminum cars. And we can't forget about China, because it's quietly triangulating trade through Canada, which complicates things a little bit further. But both sides have skin in the game, but also a lot to lose if this drags on. So now we have to be critical without trying to pick sides, right? Obviously, I'm American, but Ford's move today could be, a masterclass or a misstep. If he pulls off the deal that saves Canadian jobs without, caping or caving entirely, he's a hero. But if he gives too much ground, he risks looking weak to the Canadian people, especially after all that tough talk. And if you go to some of these videos and look at the comments, a lot of the Canadians aren't, that too happy, right? And now President Trump, he's playing a high stakes game too. His base loves the whole America First ideology, but alienating a neighbor like Canada could backfire if our supply chains clog up and our prices or our prices spike. And what's missing here, right? Long-term vision. Both leaders are reacting and not planning, but obviously we don't really know because a lot of things happen behind closed doors. Canada's reliance on the US trade is a vulnerability. Why hasn't more been done to diversify? And the US keeps leaning on tariffs instead of building up its own industries. Where's the infrastructure push, right? Listeners, or anyone who's listening, do you think these short-term fixes mask a bigger problem? Neither country's economy is invincible, and markets hate uncertainty. 401ks, investments, pension funds, all that are already, moving crazy. And another thing, that guy Mark Carney, who's going to replace Justin Trudeau over in Canada, he's an economist. He's a finance guy. So he was the ex-bank of he was the ex-governor or something dealing with the Bank of Canada. So I don't know. Is he going to push Ford's ideology, or is he going to push a little harder? So we're going to see today if things cool off, or it might just be a pit stop in a longer trade showdown. Canada is not backing down entirely, but it's definitely rethinking how it's going to move. This is bigger than tariffs. It's about how can two neighbors navigate a stormy economic future, because both Canada and the US, I'm pretty sure, both want their citizens to succeed. Now, I'm not here to tell you who's right or wrong. I'm only here to get you thinking. Drop your thoughts in the comments, man. What do you guys think is happening? What do you guys expect to happen? Who knows? But send this video to somebody who you think might see some value in it. Like this video, drop some comments, and subscribe. And never forget, it's you and I verse for a reason. I teach you, you teach me. We both take what we taught each other and apply it to what's going on. That's the only way life can go on. Until next time, peace.